Come with me as we recap Trump's VP pick's life story. It's literally his memoir, and that's not a joke. No couches were harmed in the making of this movie. J.D. Vance loves spending his vacation in Kentucky with all of his relatives. But it's not always perfect. One day, some kids bully him, pushing his head underwater while telling him to go back where he came from. So now these people say that to immigrants. Remembering what he's taught, he never starts a fight, but always fights back when needed. But JD's not strong enough, and he ends up getting punched in the face. The hero we needed. Luckily, his family arrives just in time to rescue him. His mother, Beverly, is furious, but she lets it go and just makes sure JD's okay. On their way home, JD starts to ponder how their family's fate changed when his grandparents, Jimmy and Bonnie, left everything behind decades ago when they were just his age and moved to Ohio to start a family. 14 years have passed, and JD is now studying at Yale. He spends his free time with his girlfriend, Usha, who has always been supportive of him. As a side note, his poor girlfriend, now wife, gets attacked for not being white. White supremacist Nick Fuentes wonders how a future vice president could serve if his own wife isn't the same race as them. Even though he's juggling 3 jobs and receiving assistance for his fees, he won't be able to cover all the tuition fees he's supposed to pay. He's told that working at a firm as a summer associate will pay him well and help cover his university expenses. But JD is doubtful about whether he'll make it. He attends a dinner later that night for a callback, and he immediately looks for Philip Roseman, hoping that he gets a place at his firm so that he can be with his girlfriend, who has a summer position in DC. JD gets overwhelmed pretty quickly, not knowing the differences between utensils. He phones Usha right away to ask for help. During dinner, he receives a call from his sister Lindsay, saying that their mother overdosed on heroin and he should come home as soon as possible. He remembers the time he saw his mother crying and held her hand to comfort her. When he returns to the table, he loses his patience pretty quickly. His bosses call his family hillbillies, equating it to a racial slur. Sure, Jan. Afterward, he calls Lindsay, asking her how her mother's situation got so bad. Lindsay explains that she has her own family and can't focus on their mother anymore. Then she asks JD to come home. JD reasons he can't do that because it's interview week. Then he remembers his childhood before his mother started using. Beverly and her kids were busy preparing Easter eggs when her new boyfriend, Chip, surprised them with a pet dog as a gift. JD and Lindsay were ecstatic and played with the dog right away. But Bev couldn't hide her annoyance and kept asking the kids not to let the dog roam around. Hearing their mother complain about the new pet, JD chased their dog around the house, making Bev even angrier. Angry enough to send the frightened JD to his room. After what happened during Easter, Beverly noticed that JD was not talking to her. So, to make it up to him, she apologized and offered to take him to his favorite shop to buy football cards. The two started dancing playfully inside the shop, knocking off some displays and angering the owner. Beverly agreed to leave the shop, but when they go outside, she hands JD some cards she stole for him. They chat about Bev's new boyfriend, Chip, and how she thought it was time for them to move in with him. But JD didn't like the idea because he thought they'd have to move out again when it's over. Then he mentioned how one of his friends said it was just his mother's flavor of the month. The way I gasped had me gooped and gagged. Bev got offended and started speeding the car, threatening to kill herself and JD in a car crash. She continued speeding despite the oncoming vehicle heading in their direction. And then, just before it hit them, she swerved. JD was terrified and moved to the back seat, calling his mother a bitch. Bev was furious, and she slapped JD so hard he became a trumper. She started hitting him while telling him how hard she worked for him and that he should respect her. JD crawled out of the car, crying and screaming for help. He got to the nearest house, and the big back woman who lived there let him use the phone. He called his grandparents while the woman tried to stop Beverly from getting in. But she was strong enough to overpower the couch, and she dragged JD out of the house to punish him. Authorities arrived, and the woman admitted she made the call. They asked Beverly to let JD go, and they all waited until Bonnie and Jimmy arrived to pick up the boy. When the grandparents arrived, they comforted JD immediately. However, when JD saw his mother getting in the police car, he asked the police to let her go. For white people, getting spanked is trauma. For people of color, it's just discipline. We probably need to fix that. An officer asked him if his mother hit him. Bonnie waited for JD to answer, not knowing if he was going to tell the truth. Not wanting his mother to be taken away, JD lied and said his mother didn't hit him. Then Bonnie hugged her grandson, telling him he was a good boy. At present, JD finds Lindsay and their mother arguing with the nurse when he gets to the hospital. Lindsay doesn't want her mother to go home yet because she thinks she's still unwell. But the nurse argues that Bev's ready for discharge. Honestly, the nurse probably didn't want to deal with her Karen ass. Wanting to fix the problem, JD talks to the doctor and asks for an extension, saying his mother used to work at the hospital years ago. However, the doctor only lets them stay until 3 p.m. that day. I mean, if y'all would help fix our broken healthcare system, things would be different. JD then receives a call from a firm asking him to be at the office for a final interview. He's overjoyed, but he knows it's possible he won't make it in time. Then JD remembers the time they broke into his grandfather's house. They hadn't heard from him, and when they managed to get in, he was already dead. It was during the funeral that JD first saw his mother using. Beverly went back to work, trying to distract herself from her father's death. However, she couldn't stop herself from stealing pain pills from patients. Soon, she started to get so high, she skated inside the hospital. Oh, she crazy. Not long after that, Beverly got fired from work. Bonnie tried to talk sense into her daughter, and all the arguing started affecting JD's studies. One day, JD heard a commotion outside. When he checked it out, he found people flocking around his mother as Beverly screamed for help and cried about her dead father. Lindsay and Chip tried to calm her down because she cut her wrist, but Beverly got so mad that she started hitting Lindsay. At present, JD always calls Usha to tell her how things are going. He reveals that he got a call from Glaston-Hamburg for a final interview, but he's unsure if he'll make it back in time. So Usha insists on staying with Beverly so JD can attend his final interview, but JD refuses the offer. He also realizes that it's difficult to find a rehab center for his mother because they don't have enough money. He remembers the time they had to take Beverly to rehab for the first time, and she promised that things would get better after she got out. Using the help of a relative, they get referred to a rehab center, but the head of the center says they have to follow a certain procedure. JD refuses to give up because it's their last chance, and he's also running out of time. Luckily, his request is granted, and Beverly is offered a room to stay in. Bev sees JD struggling to pay for the expenses, taking out all his cards to cover the fees. However, when he's done paying, Bev says she doesn't want to stay and prefers to go to her boyfriend's house. JD is pissed. He thinks his mother is selfish, not appreciating everything they do for her. So Lindsay finally reveals that their mother grew up in a very unsafe environment. Their parents fought all the time and were both physically abusive to each other. Jimmy used to hit Bonnie, and Bonnie even went as far as lighting Jimmy's back on fire. JD remembers that as a young kid, his mother married a new boyfriend named Ken. They couldn't believe it, but had no choice but to accept it. JD moved in with his mother and started spending time with Ken's son, who was akin to leafy green activities. Beverly didn't get better then, and she even asked for JD's urine so she could submit it to the nursing board because hers was dirty. JD argued with his mother because he didn't want to do it, but did it anyway after talking to his grandmother. When Bonnie got sick and hospitalized, JD's young life got even more out of control. He started spending time with kids his age, wrecking a store, and using his grandmother's car as an escape vehicle. At present, JD drives Beverly to her boyfriend's house per her request, but they haven't even made it into the house when Ray starts throwing Bev's things out of the house and on the ground. JD tries to be patient and reason out with Ray, but he gets mad when Ray starts disrespecting his mother. He enters the building and starts breaking the door down, challenging Ray to face him. He loses control of himself and only snaps back to reality when a woman asks him to stop what he's doing because there are children within the property. Back then, when Bonnie found out that JD got in trouble and could have ended up in jail, she told Bev she wanted JD to stay with her. Bev didn't want to send her son away, but JD wanted to go. But JD did not behave well with his grandmother. Once, he stole a calculator from a shop because he needed one at school. The owner caught him, and his grandmother had to pick him up. In the car, Bonnie handed him the calculator she bought for him, but JD threw it outside. Bonnie don't play, so she tells him to pick that shit up. JD didn't see the point of going to school if he was not going to make it anyway. So Bonnie told him it was all about getting a chance in life. She reminded him that she would not be around forever and someone had to take care of the family. One day, Bonnie opened the door to receive food from Charity. Although thankful, she knew the food was insufficient because JD's wide back was living with her now. She told the delivery guy that money was too tight and she couldn't even buy her medication. The delivery guy said he didn't have an extra meal for Bonnie, but offered to give her the fruits and snacks he had in his bag. JD overheard the conversation and understood their situation even more. He watched as his grandmother put more food on his plate and too little on hers. After that, JD started working on himself. He started doing homework, helping around the house, stopped spending time with bad company, and even worked part-time jobs to help his grandmother. One day he came home and told Bonnie that he had the highest score in algebra in his entire class. Bonnie acknowledged it, and though she didn't say much, JD knew his grandmother was proud of him. At present, JD follows Lindsay's advice and drives Beverly to a motel. He leaves her to buy some food outside, But when he returns, he finds out his mother has locked herself in the bathroom. He forces his way in when Beverly refuses to open the door, and he catches her using again. He grabs the syringe and throws it in the toilet bowl, but Bev quickly dips her hand to take it. So, JD empties the syringe on the sink, making his mother even angrier. Y'all nasty touching a motel toilet. He wants to leave her there, but when he sees her crying, he returns to the bathroom and helps her. Beverly holds out her hand, and JD takes it to calm her down. As he comforts his mother, his life flashes before his very eyes, both the good and bad memories with his loved ones. He remembers his mother being kind to him one second and hitting him the next. He remembers his grandmother caring for him and how his family grieved when she died. And then, at the end of it all, his girlfriend, Usha. Beverly asks JD to stay with her, but JD says he can't. He says he loves his mother very much and will do anything to help her, but he has to leave. Beverly lets him go, and JD drives all night to get back for his interview. He makes it back in time, and Usha is overjoyed to see him standing outside the door, waiting for her. At the end of the movie, he says his grandma saved him, and that he hopes to have a great legacy. Luckily, his mother has been sober for 10 years, and Vance still struggles to make speeches with coherence. Just another average white man who people thought could unite the GOP. But since his switch over from him calling Trump Hitler to now in full support of Trump, I really think this Republican ticket will fall harder than Biden falling down the stairs. What did you guys think of this one? You would think someone who struggled so hard to be someone would have more empathy for the working class. But even his memoir lacked empathy. The movie displayed a more sympathetic JD Vance than what was portrayed between the lines in his book.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.